It is one of those things, again, we talk about social media, but there's a thing called branding. When we think about branding, it's an important item because there's some people who are saying to themselves, there's got to be more than just tweeting every single day. There's got to be more to this social media element. You thought about branding. Why is branding important, Ernest?
Well, both of us kind of work in this space. Alex works from a bit of a different perspective. So branding, I think, is important from a number of different ways, and let's kind of define it. So I guess the way, there's different definitions for a brand. The way that I would look at it is you can look at it as an organizational brand or you can look at it as a personal brand. And I think as an organization, you become known for something and trusted for certain things. Like, for example, Apple was a number of years ago, it would be like, this is an innovative, radical company that only cool people will have.
Exactly.
That's their brand, right? And
then it has meaning.
It has meaning attached to it.
And it resonates with that audience that they're after. Yeah.
So they've built their brand that very specific kind of a way. And so on the other hand, you have personal branding, which then scales down to a human being. You're trying to, well, not necessarily trying to, but you're building yourself to be up a certain kind of a way, to be perceived a certain kind of a way. So if you look at, for example, an executive from Coca-Cola or something like that, if they have a strong personal brand, if they ever get fired or Coca-Cola blows up or whatever, right? They have that personal brand to take with them to the next company because people know them for that particular thing.
Maybe that's the way we need to look at branding, that it's something that's more personal than it is an association with a particular company or a particular group. It's more personal. Would that be a fair thing to say, Alex?
Sure. I actually just spoke with the students at Mount Royal University in their public relations program, which is where I came from. I took that program. And I remember going into my first day of school and they put a picture up of Samantha Jones and they were like, you're in PR. You can't do this. Like, this is, you're responsible for counteracting this persona, and they told us to be very, I don't know, fearful or cautious of social media, of putting ourselves out there. And I don't think that when I was in school, which was a few years ago, we had a sophisticated understanding of how you can use social media to build your brand. I think now, what I spoke with the students about was that it's a huge opportunity. I got my dream job because the things I was talking about on social media attracted an employer.
Right.
You know, it attracts opportunities like this. It's how we met ultimately, because the things we're discussing and the other brands we engage with and how we engage with them is how people sort of know where you stand and how they get to know you, and then they can, through social media, interact with you so much easier than you could in person.
And that's a really good point too. Specifically, this works. So this works for business people, employees, employers, and so on and so forth. But this applies, I think, when the idea of personal branding, which is, if we were to kind of frame that up, it applies really well to students. So I've had a chance to speak at a few different universities and colleges, and one of the things that we talked about is that you have students that will actually put some time and effort into building their own brand through writing, through sharing certain things with their social media, and understanding that whatever they do leaves a digital footprint that will remain forever. So when employers go and look, for example, through a roster of 10 or 15 applicants for this one particular job, they'll check them out, and what they find will more than likely inform the decision to hire that person. So if they're looking at
don't find,
or
if you're not talking, if you're not on there, if you're not engaging with people, I mean, I work in media relations a lot, and if I want to hire somebody who follows no journalists or doesn't read the newspaper or talk about current events, they might not be the best fit.
And that's the reality. You're putting yourself out there. And whatever you say, maybe you went to a party last night, maybe you did something that was kind of goofy, or maybe you wanted to say something that was kind of cute and clever. You have to realize that every time you do that, and that's probably what scares a lot of people, is that every time you do that,
it's a matter of public record.
It really is.
And
that's a great statement, Ernst, because if you don't realize that, you can get yourself into some very embarrassing tweets and very embarrassing comments.
Yep.
That's why it scares a lot of people.
Google just released that they're going to be including tweets in Google searches. So it used to be that, you probably not everything you say on Twitter would end up. It could now.
Oh, yeah.
But I would argue that it's more about being yourself and personal and being real than it is about editing every single thing you say. I mean, for sure, you curate, I think, a collection of tweets that shows who you are and don't offend people maybe, but you should be yourself. I mean, don't feel like you have to edit everything.
But I would say, sorry, I didn't mean.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
I would say one more thing to that. And so, for example, if you wish to be perceived a certain way, you kind of have to portray yourself that way. Sure. And even though you want to be real and stuff, I think if you're, I like to go drinking on the weekends, it's awesome, and all this kind of stuff. If that's the real you, that you have to understand also that that has repercussions in terms of when you're looking for a job. So I think there's some sort of a balance there, and I think just having the back of your mind, but like, this is matter. Everybody can see this forever. You know, 10 years down the road, somebody can look at something you tweeted 10 years ago. We see this with politicians, specifically in the U.S. You know, they'll look at dissect. You know, this senator voted this one time on this one thing, on this minor little problem. Yeah, 15 years ago.
But you know, it's interesting though when you look at some of the explanations that are put on for the Twitter page, for example, or the about on the Facebook page.
Right.
It'll always, some will say, this is my opinion. It does not reflect the opinion of the company that I work for, the places that I work for. So people are trying to get out of that and just realizing we got to be careful.
But
why can't you be yourself? You can be yourself, and that's the key.
You can also be yourself without really being horrifying on social media. I don't think everybody walks around saying horrifying things in real life.
Be yourself within limits.
But within limits of common decency. I mean, it's like walking into a party. Would you blurt out those horrifying things at a party? That's what Twitter is. It's a big party.
It is a big party.